you who don't know me, I grew up in Lewisboro and I attended Lewisboro Elementary, John Jay Middle School, and John Jay High School. I've always had an affinity for the outdoors and spent a lot of time in Ward Pound Ridge. I graduated from Bowdoin College in May of 2019, where I double majored in Earth and Oceanographic Sciences and Environmental Studies with a minor in Education. There, I was heavily involved with the Bowdoin Outing Club, and I led backpacking trips, hiking trips, whitewater canoeing trips, kayaking trips, stand-up paddleboarding trips, and I was involved in their leadership program, which gave me over 350 hours of leading in the outdoors. And after college, I went to work for the Chewonki Foundation, which is an outdoor school, camp, and recreational program in Wiscasset, Maine. And there I led several wilderness trips over the summer. And I continued on in the fall as an outdoor educator. And then I was asked to go and join Frontiers Abroad, which is a college outdoor experience in New Zealand, which is where I studied abroad. And they asked me back to be a teaching assistant, and I happily accepted. And that was great to see, not only from a student's point of view, but also from an outdoor educator point of view. And then I spent some time in Southeast Asia exploring on my own and adding to my own personal trips agenda. And throughout all of these experiences, I realized that people will only grow to protect the environment if they develop a connection to it. So hopefully by engaging in the outdoors with your families, you're helping to create the next generation of environmental stewards. So on this slide, you can see a few of the pictures from my travels, as well as places around the world where I have been able to explore. So just a little outline for this evening. I've already covered my background, and then I will talk about LNT, Leave No Trace, as well as the 7 principles. And then stay tuned for ideas where you and your families can explore New York, the tri-state area, and greater New England. So Leave No Trace is a personal outdoor ethic that anyone can practice when spending time in the outdoors to minimize human impact. The goal is to promote responsible enjoyment and stewardship in the outdoors so that people have the skills to leave places good or better than when they found them. The 7 principles provide a framework for minimum impact practices, and each principle covers a specific topic and provides detailed information for minimizing the impact. So Leave No Trace was created in 1994. It's known as Leave No Trace Center for Outdoor Ethics, and it's established as an independent national nonprofit to try and educate people about recreating responsibly. And they really derive a lot of their data from talking to people, and is closely related to the field of recreational ecology, understanding human attitudes towards the ecosystem and their interaction with it. So anytime you put Leave No Trace into action, you are helping to protect all of our favorite outdoor areas from your backyard to the backcountry. And here are some statistics that really put a lot of this into perspective and why you as an individual can really make a difference by following these principles. So there are over 13 billion trips in the outdoors in the US alone each year. 9 out of people who visit the outdoors are not informed about LNT. And over 90% of recreation takes place in easy to access areas visited by day users. So this information is not only useful for day trips, but also for trips that take longer. So human impacts usually fit into the following 7 areas, which I'd like to talk about a little bit more specifically. Wildlife impacts include disturbance, altered behavior, and intentional or inadvertent feeding, which really affects the health and well-being of animals. Wildlife that loses its fear of humans makes them more likely to become attracted to trails and picnic areas and camping places. And unfortunately, when this happens, animals exhibit aggressive and dangerous behavior towards humans, which leads land managers and national park rangers having to deal with that, usually by euthanizing them. So if we can take the time to really separate ourselves from the wildlife while still enjoying them and knowing that we are in their homes, that would be a great way to reduce wildlife impacts. Soil impacts include damage and loss of living soil organisms, including soil erosion. So a lot of the time we want to stick to the trails because it takes a long time for soil to generate in areas that are heavily trafficked in national parks and even near waterways. So vegetation impacts goes really closely along with soil impacts. This can include the loss of species and tree or plant damage, and it can take up to 10 to 30 years for an ecosystem to recover from irresponsible off-trail hiking. Cultural impacts include theft or damage to cultural and historical features. A lot of the times people go to places and go hiking in order to see evidence left of humans or other animals, and we want to always make sure that that's left for the visitors that are coming after us. Campfire impacts include large damaging fires, a lot of the time, which are caused by humans who don't exactly know how to create responsible fires. We see a lot of that out west in areas that are really arid and dry and don't see a lot of rainfall or clear of underbrush. And trash and litter also are major ecological impacts in the outdoors that surround campfires. It can take plastic bags and aluminum cans up to 100 years to decompose. So we always want to make sure that we pack out any litter that's around campfires and know how to responsibly create reasonably sized fires. So for water impacts, this usually goes along with where we get our water from and how we interact with the water that's around us. We want to make sure that we try to limit any human waste that goes into natural waterways, as well as any trash or soap. Visitor impacts. Now we are seeing a lot of people flock to the outdoors, which is terrific during COVID, because the outdoors are a great way to really help mental health and get people some breathing some fresh air. But we also need to be really cautious, especially during the COVID-19 times, to still wear our masks and to be aware of crowding and conflicts that can arise between groups, because we want to make sure that everyone is getting the experience that they intend to get from the outdoors, and we don't want to diminish their experience at all. So now I want to cover the basic 7 principles that go along with Leave No Trace. They delve a little bit more into those 8 areas that I just covered. And if you're watching this with kids, or if you are parents or have kids in your life, a great way to remember these principles are the hand signals that I'm going to show you that go along with each of the principles. So the first principle is plan ahead and prepare. And the hand signal that goes along with it is taking your pointer finger like a pencil or a pen and the flat palm of your other hand and pretending like you're writing something down, like you're planning ahead and preparing. Because trip preparation and planning is actually what makes people the most safest. There was recently a New York Times article that detailed, because so many people are going outside now, they are not doing so responsibly and do not have the knowledge or the preparation for some of the trails and activities that they're taking part in. So it's really important to look up the information of the place where you are going and make sure that you are well prepared. So that includes ensuring the safety of yourself and the group that you're with, the weather, knowing what terrain you're on, knowing the land regulations and restrictions, and also knowing whose land you are on. A great way to understand that the land the US belongs to a lot of different groups of indigenous peoples, and knowing that you are on their land is a great way to understand that. Another idea to keep in mind is the skill, size, and ability of your group or your partner or whoever you're hiking with. Clothing and equipment can oftentimes be the make or break of a lot of hikes and outdoor activities. And so it's ultimately responsibly your ability to take part in safe activities by planning ahead and preparing. The second principle is travel and camp on durable surfaces. So the hand signal that goes along with this one is making a peace sign with one hand and then making it walk. And then the other hand is a flat platform so that it's like a person walking on a durable surface. So we want to avoid trampling and damaging waterways and land. And a great way to do that is considering the durability of land surfaces to withstand wear and tear and remain in a stable condition with several people walking over it. So durable surfaces include rocks, sand, gravel, dry grass, trails, snow, and campsites. And a lot of the times we want to camp on durable surfaces that are 200 feet from water to leave ways for animals to get to the water, but it also keeps our distance so we don't get soap or trash or anything in the waterways. The best way to camp is in established places, and activities should also take place in a minimal way, with you varying paths to the water, varying paths to the bathroom, and really only walking on paths that are already established. And this is a little bit different for backcountry, where trails might not be established and you're doing a lot of bushwhacking. And this can also be different for walking on alpine trails, which has you walking in areas that are able to walk away from places like moss and algae. So the third principle is dispose of waste properly. And the hand signal that goes along with this one is taking your 3 fingers and kind of making a shovel and doing a shoveling motion. You can remember this essentially by pack in and pack out. What you take in is what you should be taking out of the natural environment that you're going to visit. So this includes human waste and trash, and also if you bring a 4-legged friend along with you, also remembering to remove dog waste as well. So we also want to remember that this includes washing dishes. A lot of the time soap gets into waterways, and remembering to wash dishes 200 feet from any water source. And this also includes meal planning, trying to bring meals that reduce the amount of trash that will end up at the end. And also, if you are going to an area with bears or an area that is known to have a lot of animals, bringing a bear can or a bear hang and knowing how to use each of those properly is really going to benefit your outdoor experience. So the fourth principle is leave what you find, and you can remember this by doing the hand signal with creating an L with both of your hands, and then kind of creating a rectangle. So I'll do that one more time because it's a bit complicated, especially for kids to follow. So creating an L with both hands, and then each pointer finger goes to each thumb. So almost as if you're taking a picture. You want to leave what you find and really only take mental images of the places that you go to visit. So we want to leave natural and cultural objects for other people to find and discover. It really takes away from a lot of the curiosity and awe if somebody goes somewhere to see a specific thing and it's not there anymore. We want to leave places the way that we found them. A lot of the times I say good campsites are found, not made. So we want to avoid damaging trees and plants. So a great way to engage kids is to have them bring out a notebook or bring out a camera. And it's a great way to teach kids how to use a camera and take pictures and observe and write down notes and draw. It's a great way to turn your kids into little natural scientists, and it's skills that will help them move on in life in many other different ways. And a lot of times we want to make sure that we don't pick flowers or remove objects because, like I said before, a lot of the times we're visiting areas that are not our own habitat. So imagine how it would feel if someone came into your home and removed a favorite book of yours or a favorite kitchen item. So an example of that is maple leaves are really popular, but they're actually nature's vitamins. They're an important source of vitamin C for pregnant deers. So just by removing things like plants and rocks, we really don't think it makes an impact, but it really does. So the fifth principle is minimizing campfire impacts, and the hand signal that goes along with this is taking all 5 fingers and making a little fire motion. So principle number 5 goes along with the fire motion. And you can remember this because we want to make sure that campfires are definitely a way to engage with the people that you are camping with. A lot of the times it's what kids look the most forward to when they're camping, and it's a way to generate community in the outdoor spaces. But we want to make sure that we are able to have reasonably sized fires and that you know the regulations and have the skills for doing so. Using existing fire rings, which are usually rocks in a big circle, or steel-plated fire pans are a great way to also create fires that are responsible. We want to know the regulations. A lot of times you need to look into where you're going because they don't allow you to bring firewood with you from your home. It prevents invasive species from entering a new place. So you can pick up firewood usually in a state park or along the way, and that will usually be accepted. A lot of the times when creating campfires, we want to follow the 3Ds rule, which is only taking wood that is dead, down, and detached. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to campsites and I've seen little trees cut down, obviously by what has been someone hacking away at it with an axe. Axes and are a great way to, make firewood into a more smaller size that is already down, but it's not a way to take away live trees from the environment. And anyway, dead burns better than alive. So a lot of the times we see that impact is probably one of the greatest out of all of these. We want to make sure that we allow fires to burn all the way down to ash and make sure that it is out completely. A lot of the times winds can pick up in the middle of the night and actually restart the fire. So making sure that it is completely covered with water, not necessarily dirt, water, and sand works as well in beach environments. And like I was saying before, the natural appearance of many areas has been greatly affected by people removing trees. And the sixth principle is respect wildlife. And you can remember this by making a 3 with both hands, which add up to 6, and placing them on your head like little antlers. So that is the hand signal for respecting wildlife. We want to use the rule of thumb when observing wildlife. So if you close one eye and you see a bird or a bison off in the distance, you want to make sure that your thumb covers it completely, and that is the distance that you should stay away from that animal. A lot of the times, if we get too close, it can make them really stressed out. They might harbor diseases. If a pregnant animal or if the mother is really protective of its babies, you could put yourself in a lot of harm's way. Human smell to wounded or sick or young animals could cause their group or parents to abandon them. So a lot of the times, just remember to keep your distance. And it's really a special thing to be able to observe an animal in its natural environment. And we want to try and keep our distance as much as possible. So principle number 7 is the last principle, and the hand signal that goes along with this one is making a peace sign with one hand and a waving sign with the other, so that adds up to 7. We want to be considerate of other visitors, especially now during COVID. That's a really big thing, wearing your mask. As a hiker, I always try to abide by health regulations as well as the typical rules of hiking on the trail. And even though you may be hiking in areas that are remote, you never know when you're going to come up on someone else, and it's just a form of consideration for other people. But in other ways, many people engage with the outdoors in a variety of different ways. It can be through hiking and outdoor activities. It can be through singing and dancing. It can be through bird watching, anything. So whatever gets people outside is really fantastic, and we want to make sure to acknowledge that. We want to make sure also that we silence our phones and try to avoid external speakers and music at campsites, because a lot of people come into the outdoors to try and really get that serene and quiet environment. But people are enjoying the outdoors for a variety of reasons. So really just thoroughly consider how your experience is affecting somebody else's, because we really want to appreciate nature's appeal as anyone who goes into the outdoors. Great, so those were the 7 principles of Leave No Trace. And the hand signals that go along with that are a great way for us to remember, as well as to get kids really engaged with the outdoors as well. And so now I'm excited to share with you some ideas that go along with planning family trips and recreation in 2021. It's still going to be a pretty socially distanced world when we enter the new year, but that doesn't mean we can't engage in outdoor activities in a safe and responsible way for each other and for the environment. So For anyone who has never been camping before or who wants to try and set foot in an outdoor environment, I thought I would cover basic family camping and day trip essentials. I would like to share this slideshow with anybody who's interested. It's a great, easy resource because it already has a lot of places and information in it. So embedded in the heading of this slide is a link to REI, which is a great resource for families getting into hiking and outdoor activities. So when you're camping, you need usually a tent if you're not staying in a cabin or if you're not glamping, and that usually includes the body, the fly, the footprint, and the stakes. Sleeping bags and sleeping pads and cots, which are rated for temperature, because when we sleep, our temperature in our bodies goes down and we have a harder time regulating that. Headlamps, flashlights, and lanterns for safety. A lot of the time picnic tables are provided, but people like to bring camping chairs and tables. Firewood that is, like I said, sourced responsibly. Stove, fuels, and matches. A lot of people are shying away from fires nowadays, and they're using stoves to really do the heavy-duty cooking and turning the campfires for the s'mores times. Kitchen items and food, games and toys, appropriate clothing and footwear, like I said before, really makes or breaks a trip and is really dependent on what activities you are doing. Health and hygiene items, most importantly, including a first aid kit and having basic first aid knowledge, because a lot of times when you are out on the trails, you are usually not surrounded by very many people, so you're reliant on your own knowledge. And regular day trip items like a backpack, navigation tools, a charged cell phone, water bottles, and other personal items. So here are some places in the tri-state area and in New England that offer great family camping and family outdoor activities like hiking, biking, canoeing, a variety of any of those activities. In New York, the regions that are really great for this, that are close to us and easily accessible, are the Catskills, the Adirondacks, and the Finger Lakes. There are dozens and dozens of campsites and even more miles of trails. And when you're hiking as a family, the difficulty of the trail is really going to depend on the age and ability of you and your kids. So when you go out hiking, consider not really getting to any destination per se, but really just helping your family cultivate a natural wonder and awe for the environment that they're hiking in. In New Jersey, there's Cape May and Ocean City, and those places are more ocean oriented and have a lot of nature centers that offer great environmental education for families. It's a great place to stop in on vacation. Connecticut also has several places. Mianus River Gorge is pretty accessible from where we are now and would be a great half-day family trip. A bit further afield, we have Massachusetts. I've had the privilege to work for Mass Audubon Society, and their environmental education programs are superb for getting families out and about, not only hiking, but also in the natural waterways of Massachusetts. Cape Cod is also more ocean oriented, and they have a great national seashore and education center. And Bass Fish State Falls is also a great place that is located right on the border of New York and Massachusetts near Housatonic, and offers probably what your kids will probably see as the greatest waterfall they've ever seen. And probably the furthest afield is Maine. But I feel like I have to talk about Maine because I've spent so much of my life there. Acadia National Park is rated as probably one of the best family national parks in the United States. Cadillac Mountain is really well known, so you can drive up or hike up, which provides great flexibility. Popham State Beach Park is a great place for beach life and looking at the seashore. Baxter State Park, right underneath Mount Katahdin, is the terminus of the Appalachian Trail, and there are many campsites located in its foothills and right at the base. And even for people who are a bit more city-oriented, Wolf's Neck State Park is located in Freeport, which is where the LL Bean flagship store is. So it's really, really accessible areas to get to from where we are. But to go a bit more in depth for New York, there are several places that are great for family-friendly hiking, boating, camping, horseback riding, all of the above. Harriman State Park is located on the other side of the Hudson River. At just under 50,000 acres, it's actually the second largest state park in New York, which is only about an hour and a half away from us. There are over 200 miles of trails, including the Appalachian Trail and the Long Path. And there are designated campsites, backcountry campsites, as well as many historic lean-tos that have been around since the 1900s to camp in. Mohonk is also on the other side of the river with family-friendly trails, and they're located in the Shawangunk Mountains, which have great rock climbing for families who want to get into that. Bear Mountain State Park is near Harriman and is great in the winter for snowshoeing and cross-country skiing, and they have an outdoor ice rink. The Catskill areas, which includes the Ashokan Reservoir and the Catskill Mountains, are really family-friendly. Overlook Mountain is great for people who need a graveled trail, and it brings you to a fire tower, which is the picture that you see on this slide that gives you a 360-degree view of the Catskills. And there's rail trails in that area for people who like to bike. North-South Lake Campground is the largest campsite at the base of the Catskill foothills, with over 200 campsites, and includes access to dozens of trails and boating opportunities. And Rollins Pond is its counterpart up in the Adirondacks. And probably closest to us is the Henstock State Park, with also a few great opportunities for camping and mostly hiking. But most importantly, right in our backyard, we have a whole bunch of outdoor opportunities that have been set aside in Lewisboro and in Westchester County for recreational and camping. So Ward Pound Ridge is probably the crown jewel of the area, at least in my mind. And it's the largest park in Westchester County at about 4,300 acres. It offers camping, fishing, hiking, horseback riding, and great environmental education through their museum. Leon Levy is also quite popular. It's about 370 acres of trails and wetlands, and it's a great place to take kids. The trails are not too steep, and it provides a lot of interesting features, including 25-foot cliffs that look over a ravine, as well as the ruins of the Black Mansion, which is a great place for a little history lesson in the town of Lewisboro. Then the Mountain Lakes Park is also quite popular at over 1,000 acres. It is Westchester's northernmost park, located right in our area, and again offers great hiking, but also cross-country skiing if that is what families might want to get into this winter. So this concludes tonight's session about LNT while camping and outdoor recreating. I hope that you've all learned something new and are excited to use LNT while exploring any of the places that I covered tonight, or if you want to strike out on your own and discover other places as well. I'll put my email in the chat, and it can also be available through the library if anyone needs any suggestions or help planning trips. And I want to thank everyone for spending their time with me here tonight, or if you've chosen to watch this video afterwards. Thank you, stay safe and healthy, and enjoy the outdoors.